And the medic gets out and says, "Oh, puking his guts out."
What happens when someone can make the whole world remember their name, yet still fail to control everything in their personal life? The figures in today's video once stood on grand stages, starred in famous films, and were adored by millions of fans. But behind the scenes were struggles with alcohol, drugs, and addiction that not everyone knew about. We will look back at each story from both sides, their success and their deeply human trials. Before we begin, let us know how many names on this list you recognize, and remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. In 1931, Bela Lugosi stepped onto the screen as Count Dracula, instantly creating an iconic image that Hollywood would reference for decades. His distinctive accent, slow movements, and commanding presence made the role the defining moment of his career.
I can't die with all those lives on my conscience! All that blood!
From a Hungarian actor struggling to find his footing in America, Lugosi became a staple of classic horror films. However, as his name grew inextricably linked to Dracula, opportunities for more diverse roles dwindled, making it difficult for his career to expand in the direction he had hoped.
I often dreamed of the dead. Yes. Did you see the play?
No, I didn't, Arnold.
In the years that followed, Lugosi continued to act, but his standing in the industry was no longer what it was at his peak. As his income declined and his health deteriorated, he relied heavily on pain medication for extended periods. Dependence on prescription opioids gradually turned into a severe crisis in his personal life. By 1955, in his early 70s, Lugosi voluntarily checked himself into a treatment facility in California. After completing his rehab, he re-emerged before the public with a desire to keep working and rebuild a more stable life.
I don't think so.
Hey, Doogie, come here.
Lugosi eventually returned to the camera, collaborating on a few projects with director Ed Wood. While these low-budget films did not restore him to A-list stardom, they proved that his love for acting remained vibrant until his final years. On August 16, 1956, Bela Lugosi passed away in Los Angeles from a heart attack at the age of 73. Though his life saw many hardships, his 1931 portrayal of Dracula outlasted every setback in his career. Nearly a century later, Bela Lugosi is still remembered as one of the most influential figures in classic horror cinema. Chris Farley didn't need many lines to bring down the house. Just by bursting into a room, making a priceless face, or overreacting at precisely the right moment, he could turn an ordinary scene into an unforgettable classic. Before achieving television fame, Farley spent years honing his craft at Second City in Chicago. In 1990, he joined Saturday Night Live and quickly rose to become one of the show's standout performers, most notably with his high-energy character Matt Foley, whose comedic style was unmistakably unique.
And the medic gets out and says, "Oh, puking his guts out."
His success on TV paved the way for a transition to feature films. Tommy Boy and his frequent collaborations with David Spade revealed that beneath his boisterous physical comedy lay an ability to create relatable, warm-hearted characters. Yet as his career accelerated, Farley's personal life grew increasingly turbulent. He struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, entering rehab multiple times and experiencing brief periods of sobriety. His family and close friends in the industry constantly rallied around him to help him overcome his struggles.
Dave, I can't get up! Oh, guys!
Look at this.
Sorry,
Look at this. He actually moved the thing.
I'm sorry.
In December 1997, following a relapse, Chris Farley passed away in his Chicago apartment at the age of 33. The toxicology report cited a lethal combination of cocaine and morphine as the primary cause of death, with coronary artery disease as a contributing factor. His tragic early passing left many projects unfinished, but what Farley achieved in less than a decade of stardom left an enduring legacy. To this day, colleagues like David Spade, Adam Sandler, and countless others still speak of him with deep affection and admiration. William Holden belonged to a rare class of actors who maintained a commanding presence through shifting eras in Hollywood. From Sunset Boulevard to Stalag 17, he consistently proved his talent for playing characters who appeared rugged on the outside, yet harbored complex internal conflicts.
Go where? To the commandant's office and tell him where Dunbar is?
Why, I'll kill you for that!
Officer, huh? Always screening everybody. Only who screens you?
His role in Stalag 17 earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, and decades later, Network garnered him another Oscar nomination. Spanning several decades, Holden's career made him not just a defining star of one generation, but an extraordinarily resilient figure in American film history.
And for many reasons, you see, the actor, the male, and a pressure that a female has to go through. I mean, he can come in, let's say, at 7 o'clock.
Behind his on-screen success, Holden battled a lifelong addiction to alcohol. Over time, heavy drinking increasingly strained his health and personal life. Outside of acting, however, Holden devoted much of his time to a very different passion: wildlife conservation. He formed a deep connection with Africa and actively participated in protecting wild animals in Kenya. That passion endured long after, through the William Holden Wildlife Foundation, ensuring a meaningful part of his legacy lived beyond the silver screen.
The animal population of certain species were endangered. I became interested from the first day that I took the Boy Scouts oath, or whatever it was, that got me.
In November 1981, while alone in his Santa Monica apartment, Holden suffered a severe fall and sustained a fatal head injury. Officials ruled the incident an accident and noted that alcohol had been involved. William Holden died at age 63 and was discovered several days later. Despite his struggles in later years, his career left behind a treasure trove of critically acclaimed performances and an enduring spot in Hollywood history. For lovers of classic cinema, Holden is remembered above all for his talent, composure, and remarkable ability to bring depth to every character he played.
You need me badly, because I'm your last contact with human. And that painful, decaying love is the only thing between you and the...
Since William Holden is still celebrated decades later, which of his roles left the deepest impression on you? Share your favorite film in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the lesser-known stories behind Hollywood icons, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell to join us for our upcoming stories. Vern Troyer entered show business taking small gigs ranging from stunt work to brief bit parts. Standing just 2 feet 8 inches tall due to a rare form of dwarfism, he was often noticed first for his stature, but Troyer gradually proved that his expressive talent and comedic timing were what truly made him memorable. His big breakthrough came as Mini-Me in Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. Despite having almost no dialogue, Troyer used his gaze reactions and physical humor to transform a supporting role into one of the most iconic characters of the entire franchise. Following that success, he continued appearing in film, television, and reality entertainment. While fame brought Troyer exciting opportunities, it also came with difficult struggles with alcoholism.
My man!
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Why don't you put on some...
He spoke openly about his addiction and sought treatment on several occasions. There were periods of stability followed by times when he fought hard to regain control. Through it all, Troyer stayed active, connected with fans, and worked to forge his own identity rather than simply living in the shadow of a single famous role. In early 2018, Vern Troyer's health deteriorated significantly, and he was admitted to a hospital in Los Angeles. After several weeks of care, he passed away on April 21 at just 49 years old. The medical examiner's office later determined the cause of death to be alcohol poisoning. To countless fans, Troyer is remembered for his confidence, personality, and uncanny ability to steal any scene he was in. Mini-Me made him a household name around the globe, but a career spanning over 2 decades proved that Vern Troyer was far more than just one character. Few actors from classic Hollywood were as synonymous with swashbuckling adventure as Errol Flynn. Just a few years after arriving in America, he rocketed to stardom in Captain Blood, solidifying his leading man status with classics like The Adventures of Robin Hood and The Seahawk. With his natural charm, sword-fighting skills, and magnetic chemistry with Olivia de Havilland, Flynn became the ultimate screen hero of his era. On camera, he was dashing, confident, and seemingly unstoppable. Off-screen, Flynn lived life at the same relentless pace. Wild partying, heavy drinking, and an extravagant lifestyle became staples of his public image. In his youth, the press framed these antics as the charm of a free-spirited star. As the years wore on, however, Flynn's health began to fail, and his standing in the film industry declined from its peak. Nevertheless, he kept acting, taking on more mature roles that showcased a very different side of the actor, who had once captivated audiences as the youthful Robin Hood.
Blue Evening on Rin Tin Tin Way. If you please.
Would you care for...
Very nice.
By age 50, Flynn's body bore the heavy toll of decades of hard living. During a trip to Vancouver to settle the sale of his yacht, he suffered a fatal heart attack and died on October 14, 1959. Though Flynn's life ended prematurely, his on-screen image remains timeless. His classic adventure films continue to introduce a vibrant Errol Flynn to new generations of movie lovers, while his life story serves as a reminder that behind that dashing facade was a man facing very real human limitations. Millions of viewers came to love Matthew Perry for his razor-sharp sarcasm and unmatched comedic delivery as Chandler Bing on Friends. Over 10 seasons, he helped create a character that defined pop culture television, but behind the laughter, his personal life was taking a dramatically different path. Following a 1997 jet ski accident, Perry was prescribed painkillers and gradually developed a severe opioid dependence. Alcohol addiction also clouded his life during those years, causing constant turmoil in his health and routine, even as his career reached incredible heights. Perry entered rehabilitation programs multiple times, experiencing alternating periods of sobriety and relapse. These struggles persisted for years, leading to life-threatening medical complications. Rather than keeping his past hidden, he later chose to speak candidly about his battle. His 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, laid bare his struggles with addiction recovery and starting over. Perry also dedicated significant time to helping others on their own paths to recovery, turning his painful personal journey into a legacy that extended far beyond acting.
No, I had to give up, this amazing movie that the best, biggest, and apparently on the set, she was like, Matthew? Where are you?
Matthew Perry's journey came to an end on October 28, 2023, when he was found dead at his Los Angeles home at the age of 54. The autopsy report cited the acute effects of ketamine as the primary cause of death, along with underlying medical conditions. To the world, Chandler Bing will always be Perry's most iconic role. But his final years showed another side, a resilient individual who fought hard through relapse and recovery, ultimately sharing his story to offer comfort and hope to others facing the same battles. Dennis Price possessed all the hallmarks of a suave British leading man in the 1940s. Handsome, articulate, and effortlessly charming, he quickly landed notable screen roles. His defining career highlight arrived in the 1949 dark comedy Kind Hearts and Coronets, where Price starred as Louis Mazzini alongside Alec Guinness. The film became an enduring classic, and Price's brilliant performance cemented his place in post-war British cinema history.
Et que diriez-vous d'un séjour dans le charme des Bahamas? Voyage en charter dans les dunes du désert du Sahara?
However, Price's career momentum did not stay on an upward trajectory forever. As audience tastes shifted and the industry changed, he gradually transitioned from leading roles to smaller character parts. Personal struggles with alcoholism and financial troubles also began to mount. Yet Price never abandoned acting. He worked steadily across theater, television, and film for decades, taking lesser roles while maintaining a tireless work ethic. His career did not vanish overnight. Instead, it entered a quieter, less glamorous chapter that was still deeply committed to the craft.
Now, I've done a fair amount of coaching myself. I've worked with some very large organizations, a variety of different fields of training with that.
In his final years, Price's health took a severe downturn. Following a fall at home that resulted in a hip fracture, his condition worsened, and he passed away in Guernsey on October 6, 1973, at age 58. For fans of British cinema, Dennis Price remains best remembered for Kind Hearts and Coronets, a performance that outshone the personal hardships of his later life. Behind his story as a former star was a dedicated working actor who gave nearly 4 decades to his art, long after the spotlight had dimmed.
Between 35 to 40 miles from here. All other lessons, so we had to go.
What did you find?
And when we found out, we had to...
Dennis Price may not be a household name to every moviegoer today, but his contribution to British cinema endures. If you know another memorable role or interesting story about him, share it in the comments below. Leaving a like is a great way to support stories like these, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon so you won't miss our upcoming deep dives into cinema's golden age. Oliver Reed commanded an unmistakable, intense presence on screen. Rugged features, a deep voice, and a fiercely magnetic aura made him a standout star in British cinema during the 1960s and 1970s. Reed made his mark in films like Women in Love, The Devils, Tommy, and the Three Musketeers series, proving his range from ferocious roles to deep psychological drama. But right alongside his acting acclaim, his off-screen life frequently made headlines due to legendary drinking binges and relentless partying. Over time, Reed's reputation as a hard-partying hellraiser became a major part of his public persona, sometimes overshadowing recognition for his raw talent. In the late 1990s, he landed a major career resurgence when Ridley Scott cast him as Proximo in Gladiator. It was a role tailor-made for Reed's weathered charisma, offering him a chance to captivate a new generation of filmgoers. Filming in Malta, co-stars remembered Reed as a powerful actor who retained a magnetic presence in front of the camera despite the rowdy reputation that had followed him for years. Before shooting wrapped on Gladiator, Reed collapsed in a pub in Valletta and died of a heart attack on May 2, 1999, at age 61. The remaining scenes for Proximo were completed using a body double and CGI effects. When the film was released the following year, Reed's final performance was hailed as one of the highlights of his late career. After decades dominated by tabloid headlines, Oliver Reed was ultimately remembered for what brought him to Hollywood in the first place: his towering acting ability. Long before the sensitive male lead became a staple in Hollywood, Montgomery Clift pioneered the archetype. In films like Red River, A Place in the Sun, and From Here to Eternity, he eschewed traditional machismo to play understated, conflicted, and vulnerable characters. His naturalistic approach made Clift one of the most revered actors of his era, earning him multiple Academy Award nominations. But right at the peak of his career, a devastating car crash marked a tragic turning point in both his health and personal life.
Can you give us some clarification as to how the hereditary health...
It was just something they said to put me on the operating.
Following extensive facial reconstructive surgery, Clift returned to acting. Though his appearance had changed, his incredible acting instincts remained intact. Subsequent roles continued to show his depth, notably his Oscar-nominated cameo in Judgment at Nuremberg. Behind the scenes, however, Clift battled escalating dependencies on alcohol and prescription drugs to cope with physical pain. While declining health made film production increasingly arduous, he persevered, completing his final film, The Defector, in 1966. Shortly after completing that film, Montgomery Clift died of a heart attack at his New York apartment on July 23, 1966. He was only 45 years old. While his final years were clouded by health struggles, Clift's artistic legacy far outshone those dark moments. He belonged to a groundbreaking cohort of actors who fundamentally changed how Hollywood portrayed men on screen, allowing them to be flawed, hesitant, and complex. That revolutionary style ensures Montgomery Clift's influence reverberates long after his passing. Ryan Dunn rose to fame through a form of entertainment vastly different from classic Hollywood stars. Alongside his crew of friends in Jackass, he took on outrageous stunts, pranks, and daring feats that defined early 2000s TV culture. Dunn quickly became a fan favorite thanks to his easygoing charm, humor, and close camaraderie with his crew. Following their MTV success, he starred in the Jackass movie franchise and spin-off projects, turning childhood friendships and wild antics into a celebrated mainstream career.
Yeah, honestly, when they see me jump and poop, they're all like apprehensive,
That's why, no, you know what? I've been to a lot of premieres. I've seen the most beautiful women at
On a June night in 2011, Dunn spent the evening hanging out with friends at a bar in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He later drove off in his Porsche with passenger Zachary Hartwell. Shortly before 3 a.m., the car veered off Route 322 and crashed. Police investigations determined Dunn's blood alcohol concentration was 0.196% more than double Pennsylvania's legal limit of 0.08%. Authorities estimated the vehicle was traveling between 132 and 140 miles per hour before losing control. Both Ryan Dunn and Zachary Hartwell perished in the crash. Dunn was just 34 years old. The devastating news deeply affected his tight-knit Jackass family, who had built their lives together long before finding fame. Dunn's tragic loss served as a sobering contrast to his on-screen antics. While TV stunts were carefully planned, drink driving in real life brought irreversible consequences. Over a decade later, Dunn is still affectionately remembered by Jackass fans for his warm personality, humor, and the memorable era he shared with his friends. Richard Harris enjoyed a long, storied career that allowed different generations of viewers to discover him in unique ways. In the 1960s, his breakout role in This Sporting Life earned him an Oscar nomination and established him as a leading force in British cinema. He went on to star in Camelot, A Man Called Horse, and numerous acclaimed stage and screen productions. Harris also pursued music scoring, a hit with his recording of MacArthur Park. He cultivated an image as a larger-than-life, fiercely independent artist who rarely took the safe option in work or life. In his youth, Harris was famous for heavy drinking and wild partying alongside infamous celebrity peers. Though his hard-living lifestyle sometimes threatened his career, Harris always retained a remarkable ability to bounce back with powerful performances. As he matured, he delivered acclaimed turns in Unforgiven and Gladiator. A whole new generation then came to love him as Professor Albus Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter films, bringing a gentle, wise warmth that contrasted with his fiery youth. While beloved by children worldwide for playing Dumbledore, Harris was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. He underwent treatment in London and passed away on October 25, 2002 at age 72. His family confirmed he died peacefully while being treated. Richard Harris's career drew to a close after 4 remarkable decades, spanning fierce young rebels to the gentle Dumbledore. Though alcohol was a huge part of his early story, his true legacy lies in his vast artistic range across film, theater, and music, and his incredible ability to connect with generation after generation. Richard Harris journeyed through film, theater, and music with a career that defied box-checking. Whether you know him as Harry Potter's Dumbledore or from his classic cinema roles from decades prior, tell us in the comments which role first introduced you to him. If you enjoy exploring Hollywood history from a fresh perspective, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next story. Kevin Lloyd's path to acting was anything but straightforward. He initially studied law before realizing his true passion lay in theater. After training at East 15 Acting School, Lloyd worked extensively in UK stage and television. In 1988, he landed his signature role as Detective Constable Alfred Tosh Lines on The Bill. With his scruffy, down-to-earth demeanor, Tosh quickly became a fan favorite. Lloyd stayed with the hit series for nearly a decade, appearing in over 400 episodes and becoming one of British TV's most recognizable faces. As Tosh Lines grew increasingly popular, Lloyd's personal life unraveled due to alcoholism. During his final years on The Bill, his drinking began to directly impair his work. Producers tried to support him in getting treatment, but his recovery attempts were plagued by relapses. After arriving on set intoxicated and unable to perform, Lloyd was let go from the show. Just a day later, he admitted himself to a rehabilitation clinic in Staffordshire in a desperate attempt to overcome his long-standing addiction. Tragically, those recovery efforts came too late. During his stay at the rehab center, Lloyd left the premises to drink and returned in critical condition. He passed away on May 2, 1998, at age 49. His castmates on The Bill fondly remembered him for the warmth and authenticity he brought to Tosh Lines. To British television viewers, Kevin Lloyd remains beloved as an actor who made an ordinary police officer feel remarkably real and relatable across hundreds of episodes. John Cassavetes was never content with simply standing in front of the camera and reading someone else's script. He wanted to forge his own films, raw stories about flawed people, awkward conversations, and unpredictable human relationships. From Shadows to Faces and on to A Woman Under the Influence and Opening Night, Cassavetes pioneered an approach to cinema completely outside traditional Hollywood conventions. Working on tiny budgets with close friends, he used earnings from his commercial acting gigs to self-fund his personal independent visions.
Sure. Oh, sure, I've been drinking. This is a drink, huh?
Mabel, did you take a pill?
At the heart of his cinematic world was Gina Rowlands, his wife and most important artistic collaborator. Cassavetes created spaces where actors could experiment, scenes could breathe, and emotions didn't need to be neat or easily explained. While his style divided critics at the time, it deeply influenced generations of indie filmmakers. Off-camera, Cassavetes lived with the same intense drive. His health sharply declined in his later years, and he fought a long, painful battle with cirrhosis of the liver. After roughly 3 years of failing health, Cassavetes passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on February 3, 1989, at age 59, surrounded by Gina Rowlands and loved ones. His representative confirmed complications from cirrhosis as the cause of death. Cassavetes passed at a time when American independent cinema was still a niche movement, but the path he blazed grew exponentially. To filmmakers everywhere, John Cassavetes represents more than just a director or actor. He stands for the ideal that cinema can be intensely personal, free, and profoundly human. Born Creighton Tull Chaney, he entered cinema under a giant shadow. His father, Lon Chaney, was already a silent film legend, famous for his makeup artistry and iconic roles in The Phantom of the Opera and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The younger Chaney initially tried to pave his own way outside Hollywood before embracing acting under the name Lon Chaney Jr. His big career breakthrough came in 1939, playing Lenny Small in Of Mice and Men. 2 years later, The Wolf Man established him as a cornerstone face of Universal horror. His portrayal of Larry Talbot in The Wolf Man set him apart from contemporary movie monsters. His character was not merely terrifying, but tragic, a man filled with profound loneliness and helplessness over his tragic curse. Chaney Jr. reprised The Wolfman in several sequels, while also playing Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, and Dracula for Universal. After horror's golden age, he sustained his career playing character roles in westerns and television. However, his health began to fail as he aged, compounded by long-standing struggles with alcoholism. Chaney Jr.'s final years were spent far from the spotlight that once plastered his face on classic horror posters. Suffering from multiple ailments, he eventually retired from acting. On July 12, 1973, Lon Chaney Jr. died of heart failure in California at age 67. Though he lived under the shadow of his father's greatness, he ultimately forged a lasting horror icon of his own. His tragic portrayal of Larry Talbot in The Wolf Man remains a timeless masterpiece of classic cinema, ensuring the name Lon Chaney Jr. shines brightly in its own right. Before becoming one of Hollywood's most instantly recognizable comedians, W.C. Fields spent years touring as a world-class juggler. Moving from vaudeville to the Ziegfeld Follies, he transitioned into cinema, where his nasal voice and misanthropic persona proved to be comedic gold. Fields created a signature character, a crusty, cynical man at odds with the world, fond of banter and rarely seen without a drink. Hits like International House the Bank Dick and Never Give a Sucker an Even Break established him as an icon of early American screen comedy. Alcohol was so central to Fields' stage jokes that audiences often couldn't tell where his act ended and real life began. But behind the humor lay a genuine physical dependency. By the mid-1930s, heavy drinking began severely impacting his health, forcing him to take extended breaks from filmmaking. When his health temporarily recovered, he returned to the screen, and while he paced himself more carefully, his performances retained the sharp satirical edge that made him famous. In his declining years living with chronic health limitations, Fields spent much of his time at a sanitarium in Pasadena. He passed away there on Christmas Day in 1946 at age 66. The Smithsonian noted that his long-term heavy drinking contributed significantly to his decline. Yet, on screen, W.C. Fields remains brilliantly sharp, using his unique delivery, glances, and pauses to turn simple lines into comedy masterclasses. His screen persona was so powerful that many classic quotes about alcohol are still attributed to him today, whether he actually said them or not. The silver screen preserved the brightest versions of these artists, but their real lives held far more complexity. It is precisely the contrast between their on-screen magic and human struggles that makes their stories worth remembering today. Perhaps you know them from a beloved film, an unforgettable character, or an iconic scene. If any of these legends touched your life, share your memories in the comments section below. And if you'd like to journey with us through more classic Hollywood stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next video.